Officer Ryan Carter was one of the best detectives in the city's police force. But his closest and most trusted partner wasn't another officer. It was Shadow, a black German shepherd, specially trained for police work. Shadow wasn't just any K9. He was highly intelligent, trained in tracking, and a master at taking down criminals. But more than anything, he was Carter's best friend. "Remember, Shadow, we always have each other's backs," Carter would say. Shadow would respond with a firm bark, his golden eyes filled with understanding. Together, they had saved hostages, sniffed out bombs, and taken down dangerous criminals. The people at the station often joked that Carter and Shadow were more like brothers than partners. But one case would change everything. Late one night, Carter received a call. An informant had tipped him off about a notorious gang, the Crimson Vultures, hiding out in an abandoned warehouse. They were responsible for armed robberies, drug smuggling, and even murder. Without waiting for backup, Carter grabbed his gun and called Shadow to his side. "Let's go, boy. This might be our biggest bust yet." Shadow wagged his tail, ready for action. They arrived at the warehouse. The air was thick with tension, the place eerily silent except for the distant hum of passing cars. Carter pulled out his gun and stepped forward. Then, bang! A gunshot echoed through the empty halls. Carter gasped as pain shot through his chest. He stumbled back, dropping his weapon, his hands pressed against the wound as blood seeped between his fingers. Shadow barked furiously, growling at the figures emerging from the darkness. Victor Crane, the ruthless leader of the Crimson Vultures, stepped forward with a cruel smirk. "I knew you'd come alone, Detective." Carter's vision blurred. He looked at Shadow, who was growling, ready to attack. "Run," Carter whispered weakly. But Shadow wouldn't leave. One of Victor's men raised a gun at Shadow. "No need," Victor said with a chuckle. "He's just a dog. He'll die on his own." They walked away, leaving Carter lying on the cold concrete floor. Shadow nudged Carter's face, whining softly. His master wasn't moving. His heartbeat was fading. Then it stopped. A deep, sorrowful howl echoed through the night. But Shadow didn't cry for long. His golden eyes burned with something else. Rage. The police arrived too late. By then, the gang had vanished, leaving behind only Carter's lifeless body. The officers tried to take Shadow back to the station, but he slipped away into the night. His mission was clear. Find them. Make them pay. Using his sharp nose, he tracked their scent through the city, weaving through dark alleys and abandoned buildings. The first man he found was Carter's killer, a low-level gang member who had pulled the trigger. Shadow waited outside his apartment, hidden in the shadows. As the man stepped outside, Shadow lunged. A scream cut through the night. Then silence. By morning, the man was found unconscious in a pool of blood, deep bite marks on his arms. The message was clear. The hunt had begun. The Crimson Vultures were in chaos. "The cop's dog is after us," one of them whispered, fear creeping into his voice. "Nonsense," Victor growled. "It's just a dog. We faced worse." But then the second attack happened. Another gang member, the getaway driver from the night Carter was murdered, was found in his car, covered in scratches and deep wounds. Now they were scared. Victor slammed his fist on the table. "Enough of this. We end it tonight." Little did he know, Shadow was already watching from the darkness. Victor set a trap. He ordered his men to hide in a warehouse, waiting for Shadow to come. Armed with rifles and knives, they were ready. But Shadow was smarter. Instead of walking into the ambush, he used his training. He circled the warehouse, cutting off their exits. Then he attacked. One by one, the gang members fell, throats torn, arms crushed under powerful jaws. By the time Victor realized what was happening, only he remained. He raised his gun, his hands shaking. "You think you can take me, mutt?" Shadow stood in the doorway, blood dripping from his fangs. Then he charged. Victor fired. Bang! But the bullet missed. Shadow was too fast. With one powerful leap he knocked Victor down, his sharp teeth closing around the man's throat. Victor gasped, struggling, but Shadow didn't let go. Justice had been served. The police arrived to find the entire gang defeated, and sitting in the middle of the chaos, like a warrior who had won his final battle, was Shadow. He had avenged Carter, but his job wasn't done. Instead of running, Shadow walked toward one of the officers, Carter's closest friend, Detective Mason. He dropped something at Mason's feet. It was Carter's badge. Mason picked it up, his throat tightening with emotion. "You never forgot him, did you, boy?" Shadow sat silently, his eyes full of sorrow. The department took him in, but Shadow never left Carter's desk at the station. Every night he curled up beside the empty chair, waiting for a partner who would never return. But in the eyes of the city, Shadow was more than just a dog. He was a hero, a legend, the avenger of the fallen.